In Formula One, the first driver you have to beat is the one on your own team. Since he works in the same machinery as you, he is the best person to use as a measuring stick. In order to get the most out of their cars, many teams try to find two drivers who are about as good as each other. If the two drivers can't work together, it could lead to a fight, but it could also help the team get ahead. The competition between two drivers on the same team is one of the most exciting parts of Formula One races. In this video, we predict who will win the intra-team competitions on the 2023 grid. Teammate competition predictions for the 2023 Formula One season. Aston vs. Alfa. Both Aston Martin and Alfa Romeo had the same number of points at the end of 2022, which put them in 6th place in the championship. Even though Alfa Romeo got off to a good start, the Silverstone-based Aston Martin team made the most progress in the second half of the season. The only reason Aston Martin didn't finish 6th in the championship was because Valtteri Bottas of Alfa Romeo had the best race finish of the 4 drivers from both teams. Since they finished so close to each other last year, can we expect another close race in the middle of the pack this year? Both teams will try to do better than they did in the first race of the new Formula One season. Aston Martin has said that their ultimate goal is to compete for the World Championship, so they will do everything they can to move up the grid in 2023. With Fernando Alonso on the team, who is known to race as hard as ever, it is possible that the two-time champion and his teammate Lance Stroll will be able to compete with Alpine and McLaren, if the engineers can build them a car that can do so. When Stroll and Sebastian Vettel, who was on the team at the time, got into a fight in Sao Paulo, Brazil in 2022, it was clear that Stroll is not easy to push around. Because of this, Aston Martin has a lot of fuel for the fire. Alfa has Bottas, who has won races before, to lead the team. Bottas will be working with Zhou Guanyu, who will be a little bit smarter this season after his rookie year. This season, Zhou Guanyu will also be a little bit smarter. Max Verstappen against Sergio Perez. When you look at the situation, it's hard to think of anyone but Max Verstappen. Without a doubt, the Dutch driver is the best driver on the grid right now. Sergio Perez has done great things on his own, but he can't compete with Max Verstappen when they are both in the same car. This choice doesn't present a lot of problems. Even though many Formula One commentators praise the Spanish driver Carlos Sainz, the last 2 seasons have shown that Charles Leclerc is one step ahead of Sainz in terms of performance. Even for next year, Leclerc is still the clear favorite to win unless something big happens at Ferrari. Hamilton vs. George Russell. In Mercedes' case, it's a difficult situation. In the season before, George Russell beat Lewis Hamilton, but it was a very close race. In the end, the winner will be decided by who is both young and wise. Still, if Russell was able to beat Hamilton in his first chance to sprint at the front of the pack, he is more than capable of doing it again after gaining more experience. Because of this, if we had to pick, we would say that George Russell will win over Lewis Hamilton. Esteban Ocon vs. Pierre Gasly. Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly are 2 of the most exciting drivers on the Formula One grid right now, so they might make an interesting team. Both drivers have won races in Formula One, and their track records are about the same. Even so, it's hard to argue with what Ocon did over the course of the last season. Even though he didn't do better overall than Fernando Alonso, he did a good job of keeping the older driver from getting too far ahead. On the other hand, Gasly probably didn't leave anyone with a lasting impression. This fight is going to come down to the wire, and we're counting on Ocon's past experience in Alpine to help him win. McLaren, Lando Norris against Oscar Piastri. It would be a big surprise for McLaren if Oscar Piastri beat Lando Norris in his first season with the team. If he does, we might be looking at a driver who could replace Max Verstappen. Even though Piastri is a great player, it will be hard to choose him over Norris in 2023. Alfa Romeo, Valtteri Bottas vs. Guanyu Zhou. Valtteri Bottas has been driving for a long time, so he is able to keep his driving consistent. Because he can be counted on, he can beat out younger, more talented competitors. Zhou did show some of his talent last season, but if we're being honest, he still has a long way to go before he reaches his full potential. We're going to keep doing what has worked in the past to choose Bottas for the team. Nico Hülkenberg against Kevin Magnussen. Many people will have different ideas about this, and it's a bit surprising to see Formula One fans vote for Kevin Magnussen instead of Nico Hülkenberg. If Magnussen is in the same kind of shape he was when he raced full-time in 2019, he won't be able to keep up with the German driver. Since he ran in a few one-off races during the pandemic, it's safe to say that he hasn't lost his touch, and we'll be betting on him to beat the Dane. If we wanted to compare them directly, we would have to look at when they were both at Renault, and share Jolyon Palmer as a teammate. Only then would it be fair to compare the two. Throughout the season, Magnussen was able to beat Palmer, but Hülkenberg was able to beat him so badly that Palmer couldn't finish the season. AlphaTauri, Yuki Tsunoda against Nick de Vries. Even though there seems to be a lot of buzz about Nick de Vries, it's clear that the conditions are making his performances look better than they are. In his last Formula E race, he finished 10th, and Nicholas Latifi also drove in the race where he got a point. He beat Latifi to win the F2 championship, and when he tried to defend his Formula E title, he came in 10th. On the other hand, in his first 2 years with the team, Yuki Tsunoda has started to put these parts together, even with Pierre Gasly as the standard. Even though Pierre Gasly is the standard, he has done this. If we have to choose, we will go with a well-known name like Tsunoda instead of de Vries, who is less well-known. Williams, Alex Albon against Logan Sargeant. There's a chance that Logan Sargeant will be a great driver in Formula 1. The question is whether or not he will be able to keep up the level of consistency needed to back up the good parts of his performance. Unlike Nicholas Latifi, Sargeant should move up in the company. Will he be a big enough improvement to go up against Alex Albon? Not in his first professional year. Haas against AlphaTauri. AlphaTauri was only 2 points behind them in 2022, so Haas has a lot more to worry about than any possible bad feelings between their two drivers. Team principal Franz Tost will be hoping for a quick response this time after the Red Bull Power team came in 9th place in the Constructors' Championship, which was the worst finish in the team's history. Haas will also try to do better than they did last season, and with a new title sponsor and 2 experienced drivers, there will be tough competition for Tost's team. What do you think Yuki Tsunoda and Nick de Vries, 2 of his drivers, will say about this challenge? Even though Williams finished 10th in the standings with 8 points, Alex Albon and Logan Sargeant could be a strong pair of drivers in the future. Because of this, 2023 should be a very exciting year all the way up and down the grid. Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for more interesting information.